who your Lord is. If somebody said to you, if God can do anything, we believe God can do anything. Why can't he have a son? And if we scratch our heads again and say, I think he could have a son, but he decided not to, then we don't know who our Lord is. And if somebody puts the idea to us that if God is all-powerful, can he create a stone which is too heavy for him to lift? And our head spins, and we don't know what to say. If we said he can, then there's something greater than him. If we say that he can't, then it means he can't do everything. What's the answer? If we are there, we don't know who our Lord is. And if somebody raises the big question, if God is all good and he's able to do all things, then where did evil come from? If our answer is human beings, they're the ones that made the evil, and Satan, he made the evil, then we don't know who our Lord is. Now, these questions require an answer, so that you don't walk away from the lecture tonight and say, we came to learn about Islam and Dr. Bilal confused us. He left us confused. So that you don't walk away that way, I'm going to give you the answers. But this is only an introduction to understand where we need to be. Because if these questions are unclear to us, truly, we don't know who our Lord is. And it means that we will be open to false da'wah, false calls to other than Islam, to misguidance. We will be susceptible to these false ideas and fall into them because we didn't know who our Lord was. So, let us go back to number one. Is belief in God a matter of blind faith? No, it is not. This is the claim that the atheists make, those who deny the existence of God. Belief in God is a matter of blind faith, whereas our disbelief in God is logical, it's reasonable, it makes sense. We can't see him, we can't smell him, we can't touch him, therefore he doesn't exist. That is reasonable, that is logical. As for your belief in this unseen God, this is illogical. Well, we say, who were those who recorded the rules of logic? Who were the first people in history that we know about who wrote down the rules of logic? If A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C. Who wrote those rules down? The Greeks. And the most famous philosophers amongst the Greeks, Plato and Aristotle, they be both believed in God. Both Plato and Aristotle argued logically for the existence of God. So we say, belief in God is in fact logical and reasonable, and it is the disbelief in God which is illogical and unreasonable. It's the other way around. It's the disbelievers in God whose disbelief is based on blind faith. Belief in God is logical, reasonable, natural. Disbelief in God is unnatural. That is why the vast majority of human beings in the world throughout history have believed in God. Those who denied God's existence are a minute number. That's why in the Quran, when the Quran addresses belief in God, it doesn't begin from those who don't believe in God's existence. There are a few verses which address them, but the vast majority of verses address those who already believe in God. But they have a confused idea about who God really is. So, if we look at the argument of those philosophers, the Greek philosophers, first among them Plato. Plato's argument for God's existence is the same basic argument we find throughout the Quran. That argument is primarily that design indicates a designer. Design indicates a designer. What does that mean? It means that if we go walking on the beach and we see a footprint in the sand, we don't stop to think and to wonder how amazing it is that the tide came ashore, sunk into the sand, and made the impression of a footprint. That could happen. But do we think that? No. When we see that footprint, what automatically comes to our mind is, somebody stepped here. That's number one. Automatically. That's common sense. It is illogical and unreasonable to assume that that footprint was a product of chance. Though we can say it is not totally impossible, but that is not what comes to our minds. Our reasoning powers tells us otherwise. However, those who deny God's existence, this is their argument. It's possible. It's by accident. Our very existence here is a product of a huge accident. A huge accident which began with the Big Bang. The Big Bang. The Big Bang, which was an explosion of matter compressed in a very small point. Of course, those who talk about this don't explain where the matter came from in the first place, but they start from this point of matter exploding. And this huge explosion produced you and I, complex human beings, from a massive explosion. However, all of our common sense tells us that explosions produce destruction, not construction. Explosions are not constructive. They don't produce results that are meaningful. They are chaotic. They create chaos, not order. So, if we are to believe, as they claim, that this huge Big Bang created us, think for a moment, if somebody were to take an atomic bomb and drop it in a junkyard